Hey everybody, welcome back to this installment of the Design IT Solutions podcast. So one of the most dangerous phrases in cybersecurity is we're compliant, so we're secure. Compliance versus security. Just because people are compliant doesn't mean they're secure. Many organizations that pass audits still suffer major breaches. So today we're going to be discussing the difference between compliance and security. So let's start with compliance, right? Compliance means meeting a required standard. For example, you've got HIPAA, PCI, SOC 2, CMMC, NIST, ISO, and other industry standards out there, right? A lot of those you probably have heard of. So compliance asks, have you implemented required controls? But security says, can an attacker successfully compromise us, right? Different focus. So one, we're looking at, are we meeting a requirement? Do we have a box we can check? Security, we need to be focused on real threats, real attacks, real risks, and we're always working on continuous improvement, right? When you do that audit, it's usually yearly, and you just check a box. With security, it's a daily thing, right? It's ongoing. So where does compliance actually fail you? Well, so organizations often treat compliance as a checklist, right? Do I have MFA? Yep. Do I have a security policy? Do I do annual training? Am I doing those phishing tests? Do I have XYZ that's required by the government or whatever regulation in place? Yes, I do. Audit passed, put that away in a shelf, and then look at it again next year. Meanwhile, unpatched systems exist, users are being phished, credentials are exposed without knowing it, monitoring is weak in places, the company is compliant but vulnerable. So let's look at healthcare, right? Healthcare's got HIPAA. Everybody's heard of HIPAA. When you go to the doctor, you have to sign a HIPAA agreement, right? That disclosure and whatnot. Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act. That's what it stands for. So do we have the policies documented? Yes. Are we completing our annual training of IT? Yes. Do we have all of the things that the government's requiring us to do for healthcare? Yes. But we oftentimes lack visibility into our network. We miss endpoint coverage, or there's weak monitoring in places, like I said before. We will see that they experience ransomware. Hey, we were HIPAA compliant, but we got ransomed. How's that possible? HIPAA doesn't guarantee security. It simply establishes a baseline. Same with those other industry standards. But if you look at compliance versus security on a one-to-one, so compliance is a minimum standard, right? Security is continuous improvement. There's a big difference. A minimum standard, what can I get by with? What do I have to do? Versus continuous improvement of always trying to be a step ahead of the attack. A point in time review is compliance. We are looking right now at a snapshot of what we have. Are we compliant? Security is an ongoing process, always improving, always working and reviewing. Compliance is audit focused. Security is threat focused. Compliance is documentation heavy. Security is detection heavy. And compliance is simply pass fail. Security is risk reduction. Where are our risks? What are we seeing? How do we improve what's going on constantly, right? So there's kind of a dangerous mindset that we're compliant, so we're safe. But the thing is attackers don't really care about your audit reports or any certifications you get based on your, qualifications. And they also don't care about your policies. They care simply about weakness. Where's a weakness? Where's a vulnerability? So what does real security look like? Well, organizations should be focusing on continuous monitoring, making sure that they're looking at all of their devices all the time for all the threat vector, areas. Threat hunting. We're actively looking for threats in our environment, not waiting for a signal to go off. We're looking for indicators of compromise ahead of any, malicious payloads being deployed. Of course, endpoint protection, right? We always have to keep that up to date, always running real time, constantly updating, constantly scanning, looking for what's happening in memory, what's happening outside of memory, what is executing, what is that script trying to do. Vulnerability management. We have to patch our applications. There's new vulnerabilities that come out every day, and with AI helping attackers, that speed to compromise, the 0-day exploits, is way faster than it's ever been. They can write code in minutes instead of days. So when a new vulnerability is discovered, it can be exploited that day. So we need to stay on top of vulnerability management. We have to be patching things constantly. Security awareness. We actually need people to know, right, that once a year training to say you're compliant is not going to cut it in what's happening today. We want to look at top of mind security, where we're constantly letting people know this is what's happening. This is what just happened. This is how this group got compromised. This is what they did. That's what hackers are doing today. And those stories help resonate and stay, top of mind, so people actually think about it while they're working, as opposed to the long, boring, don't write your password down, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, gloss over, eyes, not paying attention, etc. Incident response testing. What happens if you do have an attack? Do you know what to do? Do you have probably a disaster recovery in some of your required compliances. Have you tested it? Do you know if it works? Is it updated since you bought that new system 6 months ago? Is it even included? Do you even know it exists in that report, right? So that's another reason, once a year, things change. And is it even documented anywhere? And then business continuity planning falls under that too. Like, what happens? How do we keep running if we're compromised? Like, what does that look like for us if there's an issue? How do we keep the lights on? How do we keep serving our customers? What does it look like to come back to work when every device has been ransomed? How do we keep going? So did we test our backups? Do we know our backups are actually working? And that's part of, you're compliant because you have a backup, but when was the last backup and is it functional today? So keeping, all of that for business continuity. These activities reduce actual risk that you see in security incidents. The more risk you can reduce, the less likely you're going to get compromised. So yes, compliance helps you, but the actual act of doing security is far greater and more intensive than having that. Basically, compliance is the baseline. It's like you walk into a room, it's the floor, right? You have a framework, you have tiles, you have whatever, you have a place to go and put stuff. Security is everything from the floor to the ceiling and everything in between, right? So you've got an outline, you have a base, you have a footprint. Now we have to fill it with controls that actually work and monitoring. So compliance is important. It helps establish that foundation, but security requires really a continual effort, continual visibility, and continual improvement. We can't use what we did yesterday to protect tomorrow because the attack vectors are always changing. Hackers' tools are improving, and they're always looking for new ways in. So we have to continually improve what we're doing. So again, hackers don't audit your organization, they attack it. So make sure that you're not just compliant and vulnerable, but you're compliant and secured. That's it for this time. Hope to see you in a future podcast, and check out our social media, all our sites, lots of great content.